Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a very different video for the Canal Sidings Model Railway channel. This is in response to a request from Michael Henfrey, and if you want to see his layout that's being built, then go to his channel. It is Michael Henfrey, and he asked me if there was any chance that I'd do some tutorials on JMRI. I'm not really sure that tutorials are the right thing. For a start, I'm not the world's JMRI expert. I get by. I don't actually know it inside out, but I use it a lot. But as far as doing any kind of tutorial is concerned, it is just too big a project to be able to do it justice in one or even half a dozen probably videos. I sort of could do a few how-tos, but I don't like how-tos. I prefer how-I. So what I've decided is to do a first video on how I set a loco up using JMRI DecoderPro. Now, I'm not going to explain the ins and outs of JMRI. I'm simply going to show a screen capture and then show a loco responding to what I do on the screen during the operation. If you like the video and you want to see more of JMRI, then put a comment in to that effect. If you'd rather not see more JMRI videos, then also put a comment into that effect. And I'll take the consensus of opinion as to whether I do any more of them, because I could do a lot of videos on JMRI. I wouldn't do a whole series of them week after week after week, but I might every now and again just slip one in and just say here's a bit more JMRI. So I'll use this one to test the water. Don't forget, leave your comments and tell me not whether you liked the video, but whether you want more information or you've had enough of it. So let's get on with it right now. Okay, here's the loco that I'm going to work on. It's a Vitrains Class 47 in res livery, and it's fresh out of the box. I haven't fitted any of the detail parts to it yet. All I've done is taken the body off, pulled out the blanking plates and put in a Hatton's MD4 decoder, which is a direct plug 8-pin decoder. So it was a real 2-minute job. Body off, little shorting blocks that Vitrains provide out, and decoder plugged in. No sound, just a motor decoder. And what we'll do now is we'll go to the screen and we'll start up JMRI, and you can have a look at what we're doing. There will be a commentary from me while I'm doing it on the screen, and I'll just pop this picture into the corner occasionally so that you can see the loco responding to whatever I do on the screen. So let's get started. Okay, here we are at the PC and you're looking at the screen that I'm looking at, and I'll probably pop the loco in down here in this corner, because I think that's the bit that will obscure JMRI the least. So I've got two JMRI programs here. I have this one, which is Decoder Pro, and this one, which is Panel Pro. Now, Panel Pro basically is more oriented towards layout control. It does everything Decoder Pro does, but in a different way, organised more for, as I say, layout control. Decoder Pro, on the other hand, is more for programming decoders. It can still do everything Panel Pro can do, as far as I'm aware, but it does it from a decoder programming and loco point of view, not the layout point of view. So I use both programs. On my PC that you're watching this on, I use it for a programming track as Decoder Pro, and on the other PC to control my layout, I use Panel Pro. but they both use the same roster of locomotives. By roster you'll see what I mean in a minute, and I simply transfer that roster from one PC to the other as and when I make changes to it. So let's start DecoderPro. It's a little while to get going, and it knows that I'm on the programming track because that's what this PC does. It does nothing else. And I've got the programming track powered purely by my NCE power cab, and I have an NCE USB connected to the PC. Okay, that we'll just move over there. I'll tell you what that is later. I'm not going to be using it, but I'll tell you what it is later. And eventually the roster will pop up. Now what this is, this screen here, is it's a roster, American terms, and this is something you're going to have to get used to. JMRI was written in America by Americans, and it uses American terminology. So signals are called different things. I can't remember all the things that change, but roster is one of them. We would probably call it a list of locomotives. They call it the roster. And if I scroll it, what you can see is that all the locos that I've got, plus all my trains, are on it. Now, that's not normal to put trains on the roster, but I do it because I want those trains on it for when I'm using them in layout control. They're irrelevant here, and you can see this is the DCC address. Let's move that over a bit. It says it's DCC. I've got them all set to address 0. I just don't bother with any other addresses but 0. I'm just tidying this up a bit. There we go. Right, so basically my locos are here. They're nearly all diesel locos. You will see a few steams. There's a Collet 8700 there, and there's a J50 and a J52, and up the top there are a couple of others as well. There's a 4F, there's I don't know what 1803 is. Oh, it's 41803. It's actually a 1F, and there's 51218, which is a Pug. What they are is the locos that are actually used on Canal Sidings itself. What I can do is, if I drag this across, unless of course it's going to happen automatically, I'll just do hide show roster groups. There we go. If I just click on this one, which is diesel and electric locos and multiple units, what it's done now is it now only shows me the items that I've got specified in that roster group. The all entries group shows me everything. The Canal Sidings group only shows me the Canal Sidings locos. It's just a convenience sometimes. But what you find is when you're creating them using DecoderPro, sometimes if you've got one of these selected, the loco won't appear in it. It'll only appear in all entries, and you'll get confused. So I leave it at all entries while I'm doing decoder programming. I'll just get rid of that again. You can see what the roster offers is an ID where I put a unified type of name. I have the class and the class number, a description, the railroad type that it runs on, and its number if it's a loco. I'm tending to try and drop the numbers. That one's still got one, and so have they, but I'm tending to try and drop the numbers if they are multiple units, because they're 6 digits plus a space rather than 5, and also you've got this 3-car bit and all that sort of thing. So it's entirely up to you what you put there, and if you want to change it, all you have to do is click on the loco, click on program. There are shortcuts for all these, and now you can type in anything you like for the ID. anything you like for the operator, the number, the owner. It puts that up automatically. It's the computer name, and the decoder that it's on, and it provides all these basic tabs up here. But we won't go into that yet. We'll come back to that. I'll just get rid of that. That would have been editing the central trains class 153, which I don't want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new loco to this roster, and it's going to be that one that we talked about, that class 47, which is, excuse my head, 47768. Yep, 47768 is the number. So what I'm going to do is I am going to say new loco. Now what that does is it brings up this window, which is a decoder list, because every loco has to have a decoder, and JMRI needs to know what the decoder is before it can do anything. So you can see the massive number of decoder manufacturers that JMRI knows about. So it knows about DigiRails, Digitrax, DCC Concepts, and if we go down a bit further, it knows about Hornby, and if we click on that, we can see that it knows about quite a few Hornby, as well as TTS decoders. They're not all in there. There's no class 31, for instance. There's no class 20, I don't think. But they're growing as people add more and more to it. Anybody can add decoders. We won't be using that today. We will be using the Hattons one. But I don't want to do that because I may not remember what decoder I've put in here. So what I like to do is click here and read type from decoder. And what you should see is the loco twitch a little bit as it reads from the decoder. There it goes. Okay, so it says it's found the manufacturer 79, which is the code for Hattons Model Railways. It's a version 11, and it doesn't actually know which decoder it is. But it's pointed me to the Hattons decoders on the list there. And I can actually click now here, and I know it's an MD4 because it knows it's that kind of decoder. So I can pick up that MD4 and I can say to it, use that. And I will allow it to do that. I will just double click that. It should take that in. Actually, I didn't need to double click it. One click was enough. There we go. It has actually taken it by me double clicking it. This is where I'm no expert on JMRI. I just wing it most of the time. But you see what it's done now is it's opened up a new loco panel, tab, screen, window. The loco won't be in there yet because we haven't given it enough information to put the loco in there yet. But eventually it will go in there. So what we need to do is we need to give it an ID. We don't need to give it anything but an ID. So what I need to do now is go in here, and bear with me with this typing because this is a very small keyboard. I don't use the laptop's keyboard because I can't see the screen. So I'm going to call it CLASS 47 space and it's res livery. And it's a Coco. The keys are not on the same place on this keyboard either. Okay, oh dear. I wasn't looking what I was doing there. Let's try that again. C O hyphen C O. That's better. And the number is 40, dear, trying not to make this take too long, it's taking longer. 47, and it's 47 768. 768. Okay, I'll fill the other fields in later. They're the main ones we need to fill in, and I'll save that to the roster. So now we will have a loco, and there it is. It's a class 47 in res livery, Coco 47768, and it's the JMRI has assumed, it doesn't know, it has assumed that the decoder is set to address 3. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll continue editing that. I could have carried on editing from where I was. Oh, that's not what I want to do. It's just decided to move me around. I seem to have lost the loco. There. Somehow I managed to click on the wrong thing. 47762. Now we have these tabs up here which give us all sorts of things that we can do. We're on this one at the moment. We can change function labels, which we'll go through in another video. We can change roster media, which we'll go through in another video. What I'm going to do is look at the first couple of things we can do with JMRI. Now what I usually do first is it's assumed this decoder isn't set to anything, so it's assumed 2-digit addressing and device 3. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to read everything in the decoder. Read all sheets. This takes a little while, but I always like to do it. And it's starting to read the CVs, and the loco should start to twitch. Very gently, it's moving backwards normally in that direction as it actually reads back the CVs in programming track mode. There are quite a few CVs to read, but we'll just let it read all of them. It's already read all of these now, and you can see it still thinks it's 2-digit addressing. Address 3, the long address is 0, and it knows it's 79 version 11. These are something else that we can set up, which I don't use, but it's still ticking away down here, reading CVs. If you get bored with this, you can hit stop read all sheets, and it will eventually stop. But I prefer to let it go until it says OK. Remember, this is a how I and not a tutorial in what you should or should not do. And it's read all the CVs and it says OK here. Okay, so what we can now do is we can I always go back to roster entry and save to roster. I've learnt that that's the best way to do this, and then exit from programming mode. Right, now we have this and we know it is address 3 because we've read it from the decoder. So what we can do now is, if I right click there, I can ask it for a throttle, and when I get the throttle, whoops, I need to make it smaller. I didn't do that right. Just release that loco. Done it again. Right, right click and ask for a throttle. It says no loco selected for some reason. I have no idea why. We certainly have control of that loco. We have control of it. So I'll get rid of the throttle, I'll release the loco, and then I will remove the throttle. So what we need to do now is go back into programming mode, and we'll go back to basic, and this time we'll set the address to what we really want it to be, and I've forgotten what the number was, 47768. So I actually want to use 4-digit addressing, and I want to use my usual 7768 47768. And what I then do is I write changes on sheet. You'll see it writing a few CVs. Okay, done. It now says that the primary address, so the active address, is 7768. Now, the next thing we can do is we can go to the motor tab, and we could change the acceleration and the deceleration rates, but I tend not to do that here. I tend to do that live on the track. There's something else that we have here which I don't usually bother to modify on the Hatton's decoders. Back EMF is enabled, cutoff is speed step 85. The motor button is disabled, which is something, a special feature of this decoder, and that's not in use either, and there's no back EMF button control. So the next thing we can do is go to basic speed step. I leave all of that as it is for now. We can now go to basic speed step, and we can use V start, V mid and V high, which are these. So V start, it says is 9. Now what I found is it doesn't quite start on speed step 1. So let's push that up a little bit to 4. At 12, you can enter it in here as well. 12 there. And now don't forget to write the changes. Okay, and we now need to go to roster entry, save to roster. Bear in mind, this is the way I do things, not the way you have to do them. You can choose another method if you wish. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my power cab, which you can probably see in that picture now, and I am going to set it to go forward, and I am going to try, oh, I need to set the address first, just let me select loco, it's 7768, enter. Right, we now have address 7768, and I'm going to select 1 speed step, and the loco moves at 1 speed step. Check that it does in the reverse, and it does, and I like that speed for 1 speed step, so I'm happy with that. I don't need to adjust that any further, but it is true that sometimes you have to push that up a bit higher. We'll just go back into programming mode once more. I'm not going to change anything else now. This is now my norm. I've done everything I normally do here, but you have, we were in there just now, you have a speed table, which Hornby decoders don't have. I'm not going to go into that, but it allows you to choose a shape for the speed curve rather than using V start, V mid and V high. You have a function map so that you can shift which function key does which function. You have a lighting screen which allows you to choose how the lights happen, and here we go for Mars lights, various things, ditch lights, which are very American, and most of this is very American controls. We have analog controls that allows us to choose whether it responds to analog voltage or not. We have consist controls, which I don't use much. You can set individual CVs. You've got a set of momentum controls here, and you've got a decoder locking system, whereby you can say, if I change that number, then in order to unlock it, I have to set the CV15 to the same number as I've set the lock code. As it stands at the moment, CV15 is set to 0, so you can always get to it, I think. You'll have to work that one out. Not all decoders have it. So that is the first tutorial. I didn't change anything, so I can drop straight out. That's the first tutorial that I'm going to do on JMRI's Decoder Pro. As you can see, there's a lot of it, but I will come back another time and do some more. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. As I've said before, if you want more information on JMRI from me, then ask for it in the comments. If you don't want more information on JMRI, then also ask for that in the comments, and I will take a consensus of who says what, and I can show you next time a bit more about what the function labels mean. We can add some more information to the roster entry, and we can look at what roster media is all about. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.